Donald Trump after day 3 wraps in his first ever criminal trial of a former president.
Various colleges all over the country and beyond colleges, because it's happening in other areas too. You see what's happening on the front having to do with Palestine and Israel and protests and hate, anger. Biden is sending an absolutely horrible message. Horrible, horrible message. He has no idea how to message. He can't speak. He can't put 2 sentences together. He doesn't know what to do. This is not our president. This is somebody that shouldn't be doing what he's doing because he can't do it. He can't do it well. We're having protests all over. He was talking about Charlottesville. Charlottesville was a little peanut, and it was nothing compared, and the hate wasn't the kind of hate that you have here. This is tremendous hate, and we have a man that can't talk about it because he doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand what's going on with our country. He doesn't understand that all over the world we're being laughed at as a country because of him and his administration. And today I hear, because I was forced to be here, and I'm glad I was because it was a very interesting day in a certain way, but the U.S. Supreme Court had a monumental hearing on immunity, and the immunity having to do with presidential immunity. And I think it was made clear, I hope it was made clear, that a president has to have immunity, or you don't have a president, or at most you can say it would be a ceremonial president. That's not what the founders had in mind. And they're not talking about ceremonial. We want presidents that can get things done and bring people together. So I heard the meeting was quite amazing, quite amazing. And the justices were on their game. So let's see how that all turns out. But again, I say presidential immunity, very powerful. Presidential immunity is imperative, or you practically won't have a country anymore. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Trump, what's your response to Arizona indictments yesterday?
Will immunity affect this case?
All right, day 3 wrapping, as you see in former President Donald Trump's criminal trial there, the first ever criminal trial of a former president of the United States. You know, he's the man right now that is leading in swing state polls. He's tied with Biden nationally, but using this forum, this time to take to the mics. It's really his campaign time, coming out of the courtroom and then using this opportunity to say whatever he wants, despite 11 violations of a gag order that Judge Merchan has mentioned already and still considering. That's a total side issue. What's at hand now is how testimony went today, who we heard from, how far does it push things down the road now, as we've only heard from one witness, David Pecker, the former publisher of the National Enquirer, part of that scheme to buy and bury stories about the former president before the 2016 election. Our whole team has been covering this. Olivia Rubin has been outside the courthouse. Our political director, Rick Klein, is with me. Also, our executive producer, John Santucci, our legal contributor, Brian Buckmeyer, and also our senior reporter, Catherine Falders. So, guys, let's just take it just around the room here. Olivia, let's start with you. As day 3 wraps up, give us the highlights from inside the court.
Well, we flipped over from the direct examination of David Pecker and finally saw Donald Trump's attorney, Emil Boev, start to cross-examine him. And we saw a little bit for the first time of what their strategy is. And what they tried to do with David Pecker on the stand this afternoon was basically distance their relationship of sharing information about stories from the election. Because remember, prosecutors say that this was an election effort to bury stories for the election. But his attorney said, hey, this is something that they had been doing for decades. They took it all the way back to the 1990s when David Pecker alerted Donald Trump to a negative story about Marla Maples. And they also tried to paint it as what Emil Boev said was standard operating procedure, that this was something politicians and media outlets did all the time, that there was nothing wrong with it, and that they went through other instances. David Pecker spoke about paying $20,000 to bury another story from another politician. So Donald Trump's attorney getting their shot today. Donald Trump seemed quite enthralled with the cross-examination. He seemed to be watching how his attorney was doing. He was paying very close attention as he was trying to sort of pick apart parts of David Pecker's story. So a good end to the day for him. And also I would say outside, not a bad end to the day for him. He has been calling for some supporters, and finally outside today here, we are hearing some Trump 2024 chants for him.
So, Rick Klein, regardless of the legal outcome here, just what we've heard in court so far, and paying attention to the former president's highly questionable approach to ethics, at the end of the day, does it matter?
The Trump defense, to me, boils down to a very simple sentiment, which is this is politics as usual. What was going on with his relationship with the National Enquirer and through Michael Cohen and the payments to the hush money, all of this is just something that happens. It happens in business, and to his saying there's nothing wrong, his lawyers are saying, with it happening in politics. Now, the problem as a matter of law is that there might be other people to say something about that, and the jury will have their say. But essentially, Trump is saying, look, what I did was exactly what people have done for a long time, and that it was just a continuation of the practices that I'd engaged in for a long time. To me, it's one of the things that's problematic about this as a political matter, as being the first and maybe only case to reach trial before the election, is that it does have a lot of elements to it that might seem really unseemly and deeply immoral and deeply wrong, but maybe not all that illegal. And that's going to be something the jury's going to have to decide. But that's the way the Trump defense has been set up, is, you know, not nothing to see here, but that what was going on here was very typical activities that anyone can and should do, whether they're a private citizen or even a candidate for president.
So, John Santucci, if the content of the trial won't lose him the election, will the days of, being invisible and being stuck inside that courtroom help him?
Well, it's not going to, listen, I think the jury's still out on that part of things. It's going to make it difficult for him. I think that, look at the remarks he made outside of court today. He reacted a little bit to the testimony, saying that he believed it was a good day for him, the testimony, but then quickly pivoted to the Supreme Court, then the economy, then the protest happening at universities around the country right now. I mean, this is sort of becoming the only outlet Donald Trump has for the moment in time, because he's pretty stuck. He can't go anywhere else. His schedule is not at his control for the moment. So even, days like tomorrow, for example, where, he'd like to get out there and start campaigning over the weekend to get things early, given it's a Friday, he can't. He has to be in court tomorrow for another full day, and that will be much of the way his week is next week. And I also think the other part of the thing that's going to be complicated for him, Kira, as we've now seen, is that prosecutors are watching even more closely his social media, the comments he's making to this camera outside of court that we're showing our viewers right now, but also to other cameras. And we've seen the way prosecutors have now expanded, adding 4 more violations, in their opinion, of the gag order. And one of them with our station, WPVI in Philadelphia, leading up to the Pennsylvania primary earlier this week. So he's really in a situation where the thing that's helped him on the campaign trail, given talking about these cases, could hurt him in the courtroom.
What about, Catherine, the fact that he keeps saying, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, and playing this part of I'm a victim? Does that improve his chances in November, sticking to that line?
Kira, it's a good question, and it's something that we've heard Donald Trump refer to himself as for quite some time, going back to investigations that he was under by special counsels when he was president of the United States. Look, I think it certainly resonates with his supporters on the one hand, because he's saying, I'm a victim, I have to be sitting here in court, I can't get out and campaign. And look, it's true that he's sitting in the courtroom and he can't be on the campaign trail when he's required to be there in the courtroom. But if you take a step back and think about the victim nature of it, the reality of it is that he is facing multiple criminal indictments in multiple different jurisdictions. He has to be there. He's claimed that a lot of these prosecutions are selective and vindictive, if you will. Of course, special counsel and investigators have said the opposite. So, look, I think ultimately he's trying to get that message to his supporters. He believes that his legal troubles will ultimately improve and help his political chances come November. But again, we'll just have to see as this trial goes on what kind of effect it has on his supporters and what he's saying, and also on his fundraising efforts.
All right. Olivia, Rick, John, Catherine, thank you.